Hey everybody, it's been a while. I want to talk to you about the election, election results specifically. So, it is the media has announced that Biden has won, and I accept that. I mean, duh. But there are a lot of people in our country who do not, and that's a very scary thing. To make an allegation that an election has been rigged, to make an allegation that um, there is such a conspiracy in our country that things like voting machines might have been reprogrammed. And by the way, that one I'm getting from both sides, the left and the right, but there's no proof whatsoever. There's this notion that fighting. I mean, President Trump is frankly acting like a baby. Um, he, to file lawsuits to stop people who are attempting to vote legitimately in order to win an election, that is so low. That is so childish. To try to win an election because people followed the rules of their state, in Pennsylvania specifically. So, in Pennsylvania, there were absentee votes cast, and the rules were that if, as long as the absentee ballot envelope, as long as it was postmarked by election day, the ballot would be counted. Where I live in Ohio, I believe it's the same thing. I think that's a pretty kind of widespread rule. And then we have the Trump campaign filing lawsuits. So people are following the rules. They're doing it right. They're not attempting to commit any fraud. But then we have the Trump campaign, who is now filing lawsuits against the Board of Elections in certain states, boards of elections in certain states, to try and win the election. Rather than using a vote to win the election, they're trying to use the courts to win the election. And that's not a good practice. I mean, this goes back, when you think about Bush v. Gore, and you trying to use the courts to win an election. It seems to have almost become the norm in our country, but I think it's a real threat to our democracy, to our democratic republic, I should say. To, and I'd be saying this if it were the Democrats doing this. The media has called the election since the 1860s, basically, and there are lots of people saying, well, the Electoral College doesn't vote until December 12th. Well, that is very true, and the thing is, a majority of those electors are bound by law in their states to vote according to whomever the winner is in the popular vote in their state. And that's great, but do you really think there's any chance that they're not going to? I mean, yeah, you can have a couple of faithless electors, but like, how many of those if they're going to be? They're bound by law to vote a certain way. You're threatened with jail, if they don't. So, just knock it off. I get it. Like, you're upset that your candidate lost, but don't act like a child. Um, we want America to continue. We want our country to prosper. We want if the whole world is seeing us acting like this, acting like we're upset because the democratic process, the election process went smoothly and our candidate didn't win, what's that going to make them think of us? And contrary to what a lot of people think, what the rest of the world is doing, it matters. What the rest of the world thinks of us, it matters. So, you know, there is zero evidence that any fraud has been committed. Zero. Everything that's out there that I've read, and I've read quite a bit, it's all just weird conspiracy stuff that, I mean, just far out there that I don't know how anyone, can possibly even follow, but it seems like there are so many people who are just latching on just because their candidate lost. They want something, some kind of hope or something to cling to. And that's sad. You can do better than that. You know, uh, come on. Your candidate lost. 4 years from now, there's going to be another candidate. Possibly the same candidate for all I know. He said he might run again. He's going to be awfully old by then, but whatever. Um, Give up. I mean, also, like, they're saying things like, our candidate lost, but then at the same time, we have likely the Republicans have retained control of the Senate. You think that if they were going to rig an election, they wouldn't also make sure that the Republicans gain control of the Senate? Because, I mean, that's the same thing. Like, if you lose the Congress, the president's pretty powerless, in terms of at least party politics, as far as legislation and things go. So what would be their end goal there? Like, that makes no sense. Just give up on it already. Don't be ridiculous. You're undermining democracy if you're acting like this. Just don't. Um, be upset, but don't be so outspoken about it. And I don't know. That's all I have to say really about the matter. Don't ruin our country just because you didn't get what you want. A lot of times throughout history, Rome, um, there was so much infighting that when an actual emergency happened, the country was powerless to deal with it. And the leadership was bad sometimes. And the country just could not face the problem because they couldn't work together. The coronavirus pandemic is a lot like that. It's not going to end our country, I don't think, unless it ends us economically. But it seems like when we think about like the stimulus and the elections and all, bring all this together, there's just more than anything, there's just a lot of infighting, Democrats versus Republicans in the House and the Senate, and then you bring the president into it, and they can't get, there's three different sides wanting almost three different things, and there's so much infighting that they can't get anything passed. And that's sad. That scares me. That I think more than any other time in our history, other than maybe the Civil War, our country is threatened. Um, the longevity of our country, I should say, is threatened. So I hope we can do better. I hope that with the new administration, we can make some changes, to, or at least move forward somewhat, somehow. I mean, I really don't care how we move forward, as long as we move. Right now, we're just kind of sitting there. So I think it's time to move forward. I hope you'll give the president-elect Biden a chance, regardless of how you feel about him. And I hope you gave Trump a chance in the beginning, regardless of how you felt about him. We need to always give a new president, a new Congress, new people a chance, because they sometimes surprise us. Often they don't, but sometimes they do. So, yeah. That's all I'm saying, is just give them a chance. And don't believe the conspiracies, and be good. All right. That's all I have to say. I hope you are having a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.